Hey guys, the Paragon 700 grind is finally over. As far as I know, I was the first person to reach Paragon 700 on my server, and I did this on Monday, about 12 hours after the weekly reset. In this video, I want to take you through the key parts of my strategy, as well as showing my overall combat rating gain after equipping all of the Inferno 5 items that I had pre-farmed. So for this week's reset, I started off with Paragon 688, and what I always like to do first is claim everything that is affected by the XP penalty. So you can see here, I'm claiming all of the quests in the Battle Pass, and then I'm going to claim all of my fish. So in the previous week, I tried to fish only Mythic and Legendary fish, as these give the most amount of XP. So I'm just claiming all of the rewards here. Next, I started claiming all of the mails that I had saved, and these contain a huge amount of XP from all of the Assembly, Towers, and also Shadow War mails that I had, and unfortunately they are reduced by the XP penalty, but it was still a huge amount of XP because I'd saved up to 100 of them and my mailbox was at its limit. And I actually learned after that you can actually save more than 100 mails. It's just that only 100 will appear at a time, and once you claim them and delete the mails, the new mails will appear. So I could have actually saved up more if I wanted to. I think the reason why I had so many saved is because I didn't use any on the last Paragon 600 push, and this is because Blizzard actually raised the server Paragon level with the major update, so I didn't actually require any of these, so I had quite a long time to save them. But finally I went ahead and claimed all of my Battle Pass points that I'd saved over the last 3 weeks, and the reason why I did it in this order and I actually claimed the quests first is because sometimes you can get some quests that you can just complete from claiming some of the Battle Pass rewards. So some things like gain 700 hilts or collect 12 gems, these can actually be claimed from the Battle Pass rewards. So I just wanted to actually claim the quest first, and then once I had access to the Battle Pass rewards, I could just claim those as needed to complete some of my quests off. So after claiming everything, I'd reached Paragon 695, and I was halfway to Paragon 696, which is huge because this means that I gained 7.5 levels just from all of the XP that I'd actually saved up and prepared. And at this point, I could have a clearer picture of the level that I needed to grind to before claiming my raids and gauntlet first clears. Using my Paragon pushing calculator, I knew that I had 5 Inferno 4 first clear raids saved and also Gauntlet 1 first clear saved, so I entered those values in, and this would give me a total XP gain of 12 million XP, which isn't affected by the XP penalty. So this means that whether I claim it at 10%, 5% or 1% XP, it's always going to give me a flat 12 million XP. And if I did 700 minus that 12 million XP, knowing that each level requires 3.5 million XP to level up, this meant that I needed to grind up to Paragon 696.57, or in simple terms 696 and an extra 2 million XP on top. As you guys know, the fastest way to gain XP is through running Castle Ereban, so I grinded Castle Ereban until I reached this target level of 696 and 2 million, and once I'd reached that, I was ready to pull the trigger on my raids and gauntlets. So I had 5 Inferno 4 first clear raid bosses saved, and each of these gives 2 million XP. So as you can see here, my XP jumps a huge amount every time I clear one of these bosses, and these were all pretty easy to do because I had the required CR for all of them except the last boss, where I was only about 20 CR under, but I was able to comfortably clear all of these pretty much solo by myself. But I did fill out the raid because I wanted to get the chest rewards. So shout out to all these players who joined me in the raids. I would say that this is probably the most important part of the grind, because if you didn't know, the Paragon level from 699 to 700 is actually a 1% penalty level, and that level just isn't able to be grinded manually. I mean, you can probably grind it manually, but it will take you forever just to get any progress towards that level. So it's really important. A lot of players ask me whether or not they can actually reach 700 if they haven't done as much preparation, and the answer to that is yes, you definitely can, but you will need to have a couple of raids or gauntlet first clears saved to have that 2 million flat XP each, so you can actually skip the 5% and 1% level grind. As long as you have that, then you can use my Paragon calculator to figure out the level that you need to grind up to, and then you can run your raids and gauntlets. So as you can see here, we've just cleared the last boss of Inferno 4. Now that I had 2 million XP to reach Paragon 700, I decided to run my Gauntlet Inferno 4 first clear. So Gauntlet Inferno 4 has 2 bosses, and the first boss is actually pretty easy to clear. It's the crab boss, and as long as you have decent combat rating, you will be able to clear it. The problem is with the second boss. As you can see here, there's basically a damage check when you're halfway to killing him, where you have to kill these guards here, and these walls with the spikes are closing in on you, and if you don't kill the guards in time, then they will close completely and then basically one-shot you. So you do actually need to have enough damage, and luckily for me, one of my high resonance friends had the time to help me, so we could actually clear this in a two-man party. It was still pretty challenging because of all of these damage checks. If I had the time to actually fill the gauntlet up, then I wouldn't have needed such a high resonance player, but I was just really happy that my friend actually had the time to help me. So shout out to the strongest wizard on my server, Nefli from Niflheim clan. If he hadn't helped me out here, then I would have had to replan my whole push and only focus on doing raids rather than gauntlets. So as you can see here, Nefli helped me until the boss had about 50 million health left, and then he actually left the raid completely and left the game, and this meant that he could have his first clear intact, and I could actually kill the boss by myself just about before the walls closed in on me here. So this was actually pretty tense because I wasn't sure if I could do it, but I did actually manage to do it myself at the end here. So as you can see here, congratulations on your gauntlet first clear. From the damage breakdown here, Nefli did about 73% damage and I did about 27%, which is probably more than I was expecting. And because of this final 2 million XP, I was able to reach Paragon 700 exactly, and I reached this at 15:51 server time, and this was the first on my server but not the first overall. So I actually did see that there were a few players who actually reached Paragon 700 4 hours after the server reset, and I think that they did this in a few ways. They probably followed most of the strategies that I showed in this video, but what they could have done is probably overcap the males even more past 100 like I mentioned. And the other thing they could have done is actually complete 5 raid first clears in the week beforehand. This means that you would start with a much higher level going into this week, which means that you would reach Paragon 700 even faster. And the last thing they also could have done is actually do Gauntlet 2 as well as Gauntlet 1, which would have given an extra 2 million XP. So I'm not sure which of these strategies they utilize, but regardless, the core strategy still remains the same. And needless to say, even with all of these strategies, it's still an insane grind. I should know because I always try myself to actually be amongst the first to reach the Paragon. So kudos to them and huge congratulations for the accomplishment. I'll quickly go ahead and identify the items that I got as a reward from the Gauntlet first clear. And as you guys just saw, I used this to get the last 2 million XP, so I started with Paragon 699. And the curious thing is that the legendary items that I got actually had Inferno 4 stats, even though they were Paragon 700. But the set items that I got were actually Inferno 5 set items, so I found that kind of strange. And I kind of wanted to document it on video just so you guys are aware that if you do use this as the last 2 million XP, you're not going to get Inferno 5 legendary items. Just before I equip all of my Inferno 5 items, I wanted to take a look at my current combat rating just to see how much we can actually gain. So these are all my gear pieces. I'm going to quickly mouse over all of them, but my starting combat rating is 45,662. Now I've just equipped all of my Inferno 5 items and my final combat rating is 46,948. So I've gained a total of 1,286, and honestly this is a little bit underwhelming considering how good my pre-farm gear is. So in previous pushes I've had more than 1.8k combat rating increase, so this is a lot lower than that. So let's quickly take a look at my items here and you'll see exactly what I mean. I think the only piece that's 222 for my set items is this bracelet here, the Vithu's bracelet, and other than that all the other items are 222. So I've got the Banquet amulet here, I've got the Banquet belt, I've got the Vithu's gloves with really good magic attributes. I've got the Vithu's boots, Gloom Guide ring here, also really good. And I've got a Grace ring. I was actually using this Gloom Guide ring here to complete the set, to get the 2-piece, but I decided to equip this on just to check my maximum CR. And then finally, I've got the Dreamer's Urge Vithu's bracelet, also 2350. And then for my legendary items, it's more of the same. So I've got another 333 here for the helmet. I have a 222 for the chest. I think that this is my only 222 for the legendary items. I have a 333 for the shoulders, very good stats. I have a 444 for the legs piece. And then for my weapons, I have a 333 for the first main hand, 333 for the second main hand, and then for the offhands, I have a 333 and a 444 for my last piece. So obviously I am very proud of these pieces, and as far as my total combat rating goes, it's almost 47k, and if we compare that to the current difficulties, so for Inferno 5 it's 45.6, so I will be able to run Inferno 5, and I will also be able to run the Inferno 5 dungeons, so I believe that the combat rating is 46.1, so I'm about 800 points above this. And then if we take a look at Inferno 6, the combat rating requirement for it is 47,690, so I'm roughly 750 combat rating away from this. What I'm going to do now is do something which I think a lot of people wouldn't normally do, and that is take off all of my legendary gems. So as you can see, I've kept all the gear the same, but I've just taken off all of my legendary gems. And looking at my resonance, you can see that I have 0 resonance, and the reason I've done this is that if you didn't know, gems give you combat rating. So if we take a look at this Dormant Bloodsoaked Jade here, which I've just taken off, it gives 145 combat rating. So obviously this adds up because you have to multiply it by 8 slots. But if we just take a look at my combat rating now with almost perfect Inferno 5 gear, we can see that my combat rating is 45,724. So while I am just above the combat rating for Inferno 5 open world, I'm still actually far behind the combat rating for Inferno 5 dungeons, which is just crazy. If you are a lower resonance player, and even if you have perfect gear, you're still not going to be able to farm Inferno 5 dungeons even after reaching Paragon 700. I'm really hoping that Blizzard does address this issue as a priority in next week's Valentine's patch, because as of right now, low resonance players or low spender players will not be able to farm Inferno 5 dungeons. As you guys know, after reaching a new difficulty level and equipping my best gear, I always like to take a crack at challenge rifts, and unfortunately I wasn't able to clear the highest challenge rift, which is challenge rift 400. Currently I'm sitting at challenge rift 395 cleared, and I could probably clear up to challenge rift 397 at a push, but I'm nowhere near the requirement for challenge rift 400, and I believe that this time around it's only going to be reserved for the really high resonance players with the highest combat rating from the gems. So talking more about that, I've entered a Challenger 400 Rift, and let's take a look at the requirements. So for the combat rating, the requirement is 47,629, and currently I'm about 700 points lower than this, which means that I'm going to deal 88% less damage and take 749% more damage. And as far as the secondary stats goes, the requirements are even more outrageous. So for armor and armor pen, you need about 8.3k, so I'm way under this. And then for the potency and resistance, you need about 8k potency and 8k resistance, which I'm also nowhere near. So unfortunately, after trying a few times, I realized I was nowhere near strong enough to be able to clear this. As you can see, here is an attempt that I tried to do, and I wasn't taking any damage from the mobs. I was carefully dodging all of them and doing as much damage as I could do, but I wasn't even able to kill a single one of the normal mobs. And you can see that the progress bar isn't moving whatsoever, even though I'm circling around the mobs as I usually do, and it's just really hard for me to do anything here. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to get the first clear this time, and I suspect that Blizzard has actually screwed up the numbers here, just like they screwed up the numbers for the difficulty for Inferno 5. So it's really unfortunate, because I think that this clear is only going to be reserved for the maximum resonance players with also decent gear. So talking more about that, the maximum combat rating that you can gain from a 5 out of 5 gem is 240 combat rating at rank 10, and if we multiply that by 8, that means that the total combat rating you can gain from legendary gems is 1920. So comparing that to myself, if I add up all of the combat rating that I get currently, I get 1224. So it means that I'm missing about 696 combat rating from my legendary gems. And if I actually take this 696 and add it to my current combat rating, my new combat rating would be 47,624, which means that I would be about 5 combat ratings short of the Challenge Rift 400 requirement. If I did have this combat rating, then I suspect I would be able to get the clear, but who knows, with the outrageous secondary stat requirements as well, it's kind of anybody's guess if I would actually be able to do it. That's about all that I want to share for this one, guys. It is a little bit frustrating that I wasn't even able to have a single good attempt at Challenge Rift 400. It is a little bit of a letdown, because I think that this time around I had some of the best pre-farm gear that I'd had for any of my other pushes, but I think that the major underlying issue is that Blizzard are getting the numbers completely wrong for Challenge Rifts and also for difficulties. I think that the more pressing issue is the difficulties here, because players won't be able to farm Inferno 5 and Inferno 5 dungeons after reaching Paragon 700, so I think that if they don't fix this issue within the next patch, it might risk that a lot of players actually get really frustrated and potentially quit the game. If you've enjoyed this video, then please do consider subscribing and also hitting the like button, as it really helps me out. I want to wish you all good luck with your Paragon 700 push, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.